We share a passion for traveling to national parks, state parks, theme parks, and we want to share our experience with you.
We hope you will join us as we share our travel experiences with you from national parks to theme parks. So, let's go to the park.
It has been several months since we have last covered a park, but we are so excited to be back, and we'll be back on schedule immediately. So today, if you checked on our page, you saw that we are doing Carter Cave State Park, and we are going to start out with our normal quiz like we always do. Lucky for me, I get to give the quiz this week, and I will not be at the mercy of Cheyenne with her difficult questions. So she always gets me.
But the bad news is that I know very little about this park.
So I've got her.
So it's going to be a struggle.
Well, you'll probably get them all. Carter Caves State Park contains 2,000.
Well, we all know that neither of us know what an acre looks like. I'm going to go with true.
You are correct. I'm so proud. That is true. However, it started out with 945 acres when it first started, but then they were able to obtain 1,050-ish more.
Yeah.
And that's literally what it said. It wasn't like an exact number. Ish more acres over the years. So once it started out, half the size that it is now.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, good job. 1 for 1. Number 2. 2 caves are open for tours. True or false?
False.
See? She's a fraud. Correct. There are actually 4 caves that are open for tours. That would be the Bat Cave, the Saltpeter Cave, X Cave, and Cascade Cave. Good job. 2 for 2. Number 3. Bat Cave is the largest cave in the park.
I have no idea. I'm going to say false.
That is actually true. Bat Cave is going to be the largest cave in the park, which is hard to say because neither of us have been in that cave and toured that cave. So, once you get in, you'd probably realize, but who knows? Because you only get to tour such a small part of a cave.
Right.
You really just don't even fathom the size of it, I feel like.
Whether it's how much you walk through versus how much you have to crawl through.
Right.
You wouldn't really.
Or that's undiscovered or whatever.
Caves are not my favorite.
Really?
Really?
I didn't know that. No, we're concerned about them. Okay. We have a 4th true or false today. Carter Cave Natural Bridge is the only one in the state with a paved road above.
I'm going to say that was very specific and say true.
Listen. You're right. You are 4 for 4.
No, I got one wrong.
You did.
The Bat Cave.
3 out. Okay.
3 out of 4.
Okay.
That's a 75. That's passing.
We have 2 multiple choice for you today.
Okay.
In which cave will you find... Okay, one moment. I've got to fix I try to hide my answers from her so she can't see the things. And so, to fix this. Okay. In which cave will you find Backache Avenue? X Cave, Saltpeter Cave, or Bat Cave?
Backache Avenue.
Backache doesn't sound like an avenue that I would like to visit.
No. I have no idea, so I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say X Cave.
Great guess. It is actually Bat Cave, which again, we have not toured, so it'd be hard to know, but there is a section that is only 4 feet tall, and it extends 700 feet. It's only 4 feet tall, and then there's like little ponds, water and stuff areas. It's not an easy crawl. So, Backache Avenue.
Yeah, sounds like a backache. Sounds like a backache.
And to help you remember that, if it was ever on a test, Backache and Bat Cave kind of sound.
I was going to say Bat Cave because it sounded like Bat Cave.
Yeah.
Backache, Bat Cave.
Yeah.
I was like, no. You're being silly.
I know. Okay, last question. Cave is, this is going to be a freebie. Which cave is the largest? We'll see if you were paying attention. Bat Cave, X Cave, or Cascade Cave?
I wasn't paying attention.
How did you know Bat Cave? I need you to think I was paying attention.
Yes, Bat Cave. I was paying attention. I just didn't know that I was paying attention.
You were. Congratulations.
Goodness. All right.
Good job.
I think I passed.
Yeah, you did a great job.
I think we did it. So, Carter Cave State Park in Kentucky, by the numbers. So there are 5 natural bridges. there are 15 miles of trails that you can hike, mountain bike, or horseback ride, 33 miles of nature trails, 2 tennis courts, a 45-acre lake, 2 caves that you can tour with a commercial tour, and then 20 different caverns, which is pretty cool.
I think the 5 natural bridges is really cool because, you know, we've both been to the park and I think I saw one.
Yeah,
So
I think we drove over the one,
okay, then maybe I saw 2.
but I didn't really look at it because we were driving over it.
Right.
So I'm not sure. Sure.
That's pretty cool.
It's been a few years since we've been here, so it's hard to think back that far back.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about are some of the top spots at or around the park that we would highly recommend seeing, stopping, visiting at when you are at the park. And the first thing, and probably the most obvious thing, would be a guided tour through the caves because this is Carter Cave State Park.
Yep.
So that's the probably number one thing in my opinion to do. So there are 4 caves that you can tour. Cascade Cave and X Cave are offered throughout the year with a tour guide. And then the Saltpeter Cave is a guided tour as well, but it's not offered year round. Yeah, I did read that actually today.
Yeah.
And then the Bat Cave, I'm sure they do. I'm sure it's more of a, what would you call it? You know, it's just not an easy cave tour like you're going to be. Yeah, but when you're like crawling through and stuff, what's it called?
We'll be back on our A game next time. Don't you worry.
The one game. Yes. There we go.
Yeah. Got it.
So I feel like that's more of that type of cave, one that I would not do. So
yeah, that I'm not a splunker.
No.
When you book your guided tours, you do have to book them at the Welcome Center, but that doesn't mean that they start at the Welcome Center.
Right.
So I think it's Cascade Cave. You book it at the Welcome Center, but then you have to drive to a different location to start the caves. Like you would meet your ranger there at the entrance or at the parking lot, and then they would take you onto the tour, which Cascade Cave is the one that we did.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you go over the restaurant as well.
Yeah. So Tierney's Cavern Restaurant, they serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you'll have to check the times. I was going to put them on here, but they're ridiculous.
Oh, no.
It's like Monday through Thursday, they have breakfast, lunch, dinner at the same time. And then Friday and Saturday, they're different times. And then Sunday is different times.
Okay.
So it's a whole lot of schedule. So if you're wanting to eat there, make sure you check that schedule to make sure that they're open for the meal that you want to eat.
That's a good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Sure. Lodging, there's several different options offered at this state park, and we have both stayed in 2 different types of lodging, so that's really nice. We have background knowledge of 2 different places. So you're going to have the option of a cottage, which is more like a cabin, in my opinion, type feel. There are 11 of those. There's a lodge with 28 rooms, and then there are 89 campsites. And I believe 30 of those have hookups, and then the rest would not. I stayed in a cottage, and then
we
stayed in the lodge.
At the lodge.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
So things to do outside of the caves. There is, like I said, there's a lake. You can go paddleboarding, fishing. You have to have a license. Birding, bicycling, canoeing, swimming, gem mining, which my 5-year-old, that's her jam, is gem mining.
It's also Blake's jam.
So, yes, those are just a couple different things. And then they have a lot of different lead tours and activities. And I've got the dates for 2024 here just to show a couple of those things. So at the end of October, they have the Halloween campout celebration. The 1st of November, they have a murder mystery dinner theater.
That sounds cool.
I know, I want to go there for that one. December, holiday at the caves. January, a winter adventure weekend. I have no idea what that is.
No, I don't either.
Curious. And then February, they have a Valentine's dinner.
That was around the time we were traveling there, because I do remember that. I love a park that plans events and has all of these different options, even if it's not something that you're interested in. Someone is, and I just think it's so cool that they put the time and effort into these different events and activities, because not all parks do that,
Right.
whether it be funding or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
But I love that they do all of these different activities. And this is
Yeah.
just October through February. So
Yeah.
they
So
may
they've got
offer
a lot.
some other things. So our trip, we're going to talk a little bit about our trip. Did we both visit in 2020?
We did.
I didn't know that.
In the winter of 2020.
Okay, so we visited in February of 2020.
We visited in January of 2020.
And I think we went because you inspired us to.
I think that was right.
Yeah, we both went in the winter. It was snowing at home before we left, and it was cold, but it was a great time to go because in a cave, it stays the same year round.
Yep.
So it's a great time. Any time's a great time to visit a cave.
Right. So January of 2020, this was one of the first trips that we did with Evie. So she would have been 7 months old, 8 months old at that time. So that was one of our first trips that we took kind of with her, which is why we stayed in the lodge. So it'd be close to the restaurant and kind of close to the other stuff that's just right there.
Yeah.
And it was a fun way to get a postpartum mama out of the house during the winter blues. That was why we went.
Yeah.
And then y'all went because FOMO.
Right. We all know that I had FOMO. Yes, you're right. And I always remember thinking, like, I'm so glad we went on that trip because that was kind of right before everything shut down. So
Yep.
I was always glad for that trip.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed in the cottages, which I definitely recommend. I want to say it was 1 or 2 bedrooms and 1 or 2 bathrooms. I mean, it was a good sized place, and it had a full kitchen, a living room, and a fireplace, which was super nice. So I really liked the cottages, and the cottage we stayed in was pet friendly, so we got to take the dogs.
Oh, that's fun. We stayed at the lodge. I don't remember it being over the top exciting. It was clean, it was nice, but I don't have a lot of memories of what the actual lodge looks like.
Right.
So, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Letting y'all down.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the cottages. It had like a little porch on the back. It was just really nice. A little loop you could walk. When Blake and I went, we did both tours that were available at that time. So that was the X Cave and Cascade Cave tour. And what I really loved, and you had told me about this too, it was just kind of a dead period or just a low time of the year. And we were the only ones on the Cascade Cave tour with our tour guide. And we love picking the park ranger's brains, and just asking questions and things. So that was really nice that it was just us and him. And there were people on the X Cave tour, but still not that many. So that was really, really nice. I love that.
Yeah, that's cool. It was the same thing with Cascade Cave. It was just me, Tyler, Evie, and the guide.
Yeah, I love that.
It was a private tour.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So you got to hear everything they said. You didn't have to worry about walking too slow and catching up, or worry about the people that were walking too slow so that you had to walk slow too. It was just perfectly tailored to us.
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool.
All about you, which was nice.
It was Evie's first cave.
Yeah, I love that. We really enjoyed both tours, and I would recommend both of those. We also hiked one of the trails, which was the Box Canyon Trail, and I really enjoyed that trail too. We got to see a lot of different things. It was probably like a moderate trail, which they probably call it easy if I call it moderate.
Probably. Yeah. I believe that's the one that we did too.
Did you guys take that? Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. Started out, and I'm not going to describe this because what I was going to say was you start out in the woods, and then the trail gets really grassy for a minute, and then it opens up, and then it kind of turns, and then I realized that's what happens.
There's this big heat. I still remember it because I was struggling getting up it because it was muddy and wet and I was sliding. Yeah.
That description didn't
have there, but so you're welcome. Have a description.
Yeah. Sorry.
But I recommend it. I do remember enjoying it.
Yes, I enjoyed it. It was Box Canyon is kind of like a slot canyon. So the once you got back there was straight up and down walls of rock. Mm-hmm. And then there was a slit in them or a slot, and you could go through them, walk through them. And I remember Tyler had a lot of fun because he could stick his hands on each side and your feet on each side and shimmy up the crack.
That's cool.
Yeah. So he enjoyed that one.
So I just looked it up just to refresh our memory, and it is listed as moderate. So, yeah, but it was only 3/4 of a mile, which was nice. A nice short hike. And it was over there.
We saw deer there.
We didn't.
The deer were
cool.
kind of on top of the rocks where the rest of the trees were.
In the woods.
In the woods. Where the grass was.
In that hill.
In the hill. Yeah.
We've been there.
Yeah, you're there. I was there. My goodness. So my favorite park story is not really a great park story. Like I said earlier, I'm not a giant fan of caves because I'm afraid of drowning, which most people say, there's no water in caves. But there's a lot of water in a cave called Cascade Cave.
There is.
When there's a 30-foot waterfall in the cave and a huge river in the bottom.
Yeah, it was so cool.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
That part, fine. Enjoyed it. The issue that I have was that as we were walking through the cave, it got pretty narrow at some point, and there was water on the ground. It was maybe an inch deep. It wasn't anything scary. But while we were walking through the water, through this little pass, there's water dripping from the ceiling. And I was like, I don't like water dripping from the ceiling. And then the ranger very so kindly informs us that there's a lake above us. And that's why the water is dripping through the ceiling, because it's coming from the lake.
Yeah, I do remember.
And that was when I panicked just a little bit, because I'm afraid of drowning and there's water on my feet and there's water dripping from the lake above my head.
Good.
So that was one not so great story. The other story, though, is just like in any cave tour you go on, they're going to turn the lights out at some point. And so we are in the cave. We get down there, we get to the back, and at this point, Evie is still, 7, 8 months old. She's in a little front-facing carrier. You can't have the big backpacks, but you can have the little carriers. And they turn the lights out. And it was really quiet, and it was really dark. And we turned the lights back on, and it was maybe 10 seconds. And Evie was asleep. It got dark long enough that she was like, I'm out. I'm done. And she just went to sleep right there.
Such a long walk.
So hard.
Being a baby.
So hard being a baby.
I love that.
I know. Little baby Evie.
I don't really necessarily have like a story, but just a good memory I had was, because I just love little things like this, is like we made breakfast. So we made biscuits and gravy and bacon, like everything, eggs and hash browns, and Blake built a fire in the fireplace. And that was just a nice way to start the morning. And a lot of times when we're on a trip,
We don't eat breakfast.
no, we heat up a sandwich in the microwave if you're lucky, and you're going to starve.
Right.
For most of the
You
trip.
throw a Pop-Tart in your mouth and you run.
Right, or an Uncrustable. So it was just nice to like slow down and like start the fire, because I love good fire. I just love that
Yeah.
scene.
Yes.
So I just really enjoyed that.
It is fun.
So another reason why I love the cottage too,
Yeah.
because you can cook and you can have a fire. So I really enjoyed that. When we go back, I would like to go back eventually, and I would like to do the saltpeter guided tour, because that's the one that I have not done, and I would not do the cave. So it would be the last one that I would need to do. And I'd like to check out the lake and things too, because like we said, we went in the winter, so that really just wasn't something to look at that time.
Yeah,
So
for sure. I don't know if I want to go back, because there's so many other things that I want to do. Caves, I don't know if you know this, but
don't tell us.
they're not my favorite. I wouldn't necessarily, it's not on my bucket list to go back to this state park. But if there was a group of family that were going, I would go. I would go with you guys. I would go hang out to finish up the caves. But it's not necessarily top tier. I want to go back.
It's just kind of funny for you to say this because of how many caves we've been to together. Like Jewel Cave, Wind Cave, like several at Mammoth Cave.
I know.
These caves. But she doesn't really like caves.
No, I don't, but you gotta check it off. You can't go to any cave national park and not go in the cave. You can't go to Jewel Cave National Park. Right.
You're not going to the cave. I don't disagree with you, but it's just funny. I've been in an awful lot of caves with you.
I know. Timpanogos Cave in Utah.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of caves, and they all look the same to me, for the most part.
Somewhat, yeah.
But things that I know about caves. Stalactites. You're thinking about it. They hang from the ceiling because they hold on tight.
They do.
And stalagmites. or on the ground because you might trip over it.
You're me. You're definitely
Can't help it. Sweet, precious Marie. Man, those are my two big things I know about caves.
Something I feel like I need to add in because I read this earlier is that 40,000 bats hibernate in the bat cave. And I think that's interesting. That is a lot of bats.
That's a lot of bats.
Especially for that tight area, that you have to go through. I don't know. That just doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I don't know. But with bats and in caves,
yes,
there is the white nose syndrome. White nose syndrome is a disease that kills 70 to 100% of the bats that are in the cave that's been infected.
That's so sad.
So, that's all the bats. It doesn't affect humans or pets or anything else. It's just the bats that are there to hibernate. And it, in any cave that you go to in the United States, I'm 99% sure they have you do the decontamination protocol. That looks different at each cave that you go to, but it's pretty much the same thing. Once you leave the cave, you have to walk through this mixture so it cleans the bottom of your shoes. And so one of the things that you'll see on a lot of cave tours when you're looking at the information is that they might even ask you not to wear a jacket that you've worn in a previous cave. So if you're wearing a jacket and you bumped up against the wall of the cave and then you go to the next cave and you wear the same jacket, you could contaminate it that way. And so I've seen that with jackets and backpacks. And that's one of the reasons they don't want you to bring backpacks in caves. And of course, you're not supposed to bring food into a cave either, because that can change all of the critters in the cave. They don't need your Kit Kat,
Join us in our private Facebook group so you can share your own trip stories, and visit our blog for even more information about the park we visited today. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another live video turned podcast. Links for all these are located in the description below.
Until next time, we'll see you at the park.